The Babadook is a 2014 Australian psychological horror film, and watching it gave me grief. I'm not a frequent of the horror genre, but even an outsider like myself could recognize the ignominiously ham-handed attempt at creating fear in the audience. There's a preponderance of reasons why this movie was destined to miss the mark, and I think the greatest among these is that the plot is too specific. Just as a good hero's journey allows any viewer to place themselves into the shoes of a protagonist, a good horror piece will have the audience shivering as if they could be next. I found the plot element of the storybook to be a disturbing and excellent start, but for much of the rest of the movie, the horror is derived from the relationship between the mother and her son, and that's so specific that I know it's not going to happen to me. I'm not a single mother, and if I were, I would have the comforting knowledge of my son's personality to reassure me. Basically, the plot isn't relatable, and this prevents the film from unsettling me. Scenes such as the boy flying up the flight of stairs and the climactic beheading of the father were so laughably low quality that they completely broke my suspension of disbelief. Because of this, I was astonished to learn that this film was made as recently as 2014, but the meager budget of $2 million explains it all. What I do know of good horror writing is that subtlety is key, and it was absent here. The backstory of the father was just blurted out by the child, violating the principle of show don't tell. The Oedipus and grief motifs were reinforced ad nauseam, and the symbol of the Babadook is quite glaring in nature. If you want to create a good horror symbol, simplicity is important. Consider something like the spiral in Junji Ito's famous horror manga Uzumaki, because something like a peculiar coat rack isn't scaring anyone. There was also a few logical oversights that added fuel to this movie's disastrous fire. For example, featuring 1930s animation on the TV is a cool idea, as it can be unsettling, but there is no reason why it would just normally be on TV 2 nights in a row. Additionally, it is never adequately explained why the mother randomly pulls out her own tooth, nor why the mother and son began feeding worms to the Babadook at the movie's resolution, although I know this is a metaphor for managing one's grief. To mention quickly, I found the acting to be subpar. Children acting can be a hit or miss, and with scenes like when the mom was strangling the son, the lack of talent shows. To be fair, I didn't find the mom's fed-up outcries against her son to be so convincing either. Credit where credit is due, this movie did have some clever cinematographic techniques, and it was funny when it wanted to be. There were 4 points in the movie where the music stopped abruptly, effectively signifying a release of tension. And this was probably my favorite thing about the film. Additionally, there were a handful of lovely jump cuts, such as cutting from the boy screaming to reading a storybook calmly in bed. I liked these techniques, but as the movie continued, I realized that it was over-edited. Every 2 seconds it would jump to a different shot, and this became jarring. Patience in editing could have gone a long way, especially in building fear. I can respect that the Babadook is trying to do something different, however, its amateur direction and use of effects turns it into a laughingstock instead of the horrific or profound experience it's meant to be. It's not offensively bad, but it's also not worth a night of your time. You're better off looking for some tried and true classics instead. Thank you.